Thanks to everyone for coming today and conference organizers for today. The title of my talk is Growing Targeted Delivery Partnerships and Alliances in the Cosmetics and Personal Care Industries. Before I get started, I do wanted to provide a brief introduction to Lux Research for those of you who aren't familiar with us. As it was mentioned, we are a science-based market research and consulting firm, essentially a tech scouting firm, and we provide ongoing intelligence in several areas of emerging technologies, including bio-based materials and chemicals, alternative fuels, water-based technologies, green buildings, and of course in my area of expertise, targeted delivery. We are headquartered in Boston, but we have offices in New York, Amsterdam, Singapore, and most recently in Shanghai. The most important way that we provide this ongoing intelligence is through direct interaction with CEOs, CTOs, and other executives at cutting-edge technology firms in our sectors of focus. So what I'd like to do today is to provide a brief overview of what we mean by targeted delivery, our definition of it, and why partnerships are especially important in the field. I then want to go into a little bit of a recent report that we released on targeted delivery technology partnerships. And a component of this report was essentially finding out what both technology developers and large corporations, where they agreed and disagreed in regards to partnership strategies and best practices. And I should mention that part of our intelligence services are these quarterly state of the market reports, where we provide like a broader overview of the industry itself, in addition to company profiles that we provide based on the direct interactions and the conversations that we have with these executives at startup firms. So after I go into a little bit about that report, then how do you apply those best practices into specific industries? And then I'd like to end with just providing a little bit of more detail about some of the companies that we cover in our targeted delivery intelligence service, how they stack up to each other, comparing them on our Lux Innovation Grid, and then also focusing on several companies that are specifically developing delivery technologies for the personal care and cosmetics industry. So first, what do we mean by targeted delivery? Delivery technologies really provide a span of both control and targeting. So when you're trying to have an active ingredient reach a certain location, environment, or tissue type, when you have untargeted delivery, when you have untargeted delivery here on the left, you typically use a large amount of active material, and because it's not protected and it's not encapsulated in any sort of system, a lot tends to be degraded into the environment or released prior to it actually reaching the specific location. And additionally, you also have a lot of off-site targets and side effects related to it affecting unintended tissues. And because of that, you are using a large amount. You end up spending a lot of money because active ingredients really are some of the most expensive substances on Earth. But when you have targeted delivery, the active ingredient is encapsulated or protected in some form or fashion, and you end up having less that's degraded into the environment or prematurely released, and the proper amount reaches the therapeutic the target at the right dose, and you also mitigate some side effects as well as off-site targets. So because of that, you end up using less amount of active ingredients, and therefore lowering the cost that is associated with delivering the active ingredient. So targeted delivery technology, the targeted delivery technology value chain incorporates both upstream materials and chemicals suppliers and developers. So that includes the active ingredient suppliers like the flavors, the colors, the aromas developers, as well as also the materials developers, so the polymers, the dendrimers, the chitosans, even the biochemical entities like monoclonal antibodies that actually go into helping to target specific locations. And all of these raw materials are components that make up targeted delivery technology platforms. So whether that be some sort of encapsulation technology or advanced materials, device delivery, that sort of thing. And all of these platforms are then used for a variety of different applications and technology buyers. So whether it be healthcare, life sciences, consumer products, food, beverage industry, industrial, agricultural industries. So partnerships in the value chain really link all of these different specialty chemicals and materials providers, startups, as well as application developers. And there are basically three types of partnerships within the targeted delivery technology ecosystem or solar system. The first is the partnerships that occur between the technology developers and all the application developers. So whether it be, for targeted delivery specifically, there's 4 main applications they're relevant to. The medical industry, of course, for drug delivery, consumer products and personal care, industrial and agricultural. So there's partnerships between the tech developers and the actual technology buyers, but there's also partnerships between large corporations of different industries, in addition to partnerships within the same industry between large corporations. And each of these industries really have their own individual needs, whether it be to improve the efficacy and compliance of certain active ingredients, or to improve the health claims associated with product development, or reduce environmental effects that are associated with active ingredients. And targeted delivery technologies, which, as I mentioned, span the range of controlled release, encapsulation, device delivery, formulation. They really all help to address the needs in all of these different industries. And this is just a short list of the consumer and personal care products that are currently on the market, which utilize some sort of advanced delivery systems. So you can see that they range from large companies like Lancome and Unilever to less known companies like DS Laboratories, Circuit Skin, Cosmeceuticals, that sort of thing. And these products are using primarily, at least in this list, some sort of encapsulation technology, whether it be through nanocapsules or polymeric microspheres. So now that I've described what we mean by targeted delivery technology and why partnerships are needed to address the needs in these 4 different industries, I now want to go into a little bit, as I mentioned, a report that we recently released that was specifically about partnership best practices in the targeted delivery space. And the way that we went about doing this was we interviewed players across the value chain, so that includes small startups as well as large corporations in all 4 of these different industries. And we wanted to get a sense of where they agree and where they disagree in regards to partnership strategies. So I'm just going to show just a small part of this report and some of the results from them. So one of the first questions we asked was, how valuable do these companies find partnerships? And for the most part, what we saw was that for the small targeted delivery technology developers, having partnerships with large corporations was really the end-all be-all for these smaller companies versus partnerships the partnerships that buyers have with technology developers. So here on the left, when we ask how highly do tech developers value partnerships with corporations, you can see that almost 80% of the tech developers that we spoke to found that partnerships with large corporations were really critical to their business model and their business strategies. And on the other hand, when we asked how highly do corporations value partnerships with tech developers, we found that although both sides, both the tech developers and the buyers, agreed that these partnerships were valuable or highly valuable, they were not necessarily considered to be a critical part of their business model. Another question we asked was, what was the primary motivation for these tech developers to partner with these large corporations? And we found that for the most part, technology developers' primary motivation was for financial support as well as market validation that they would receive from these partnerships with large corporations. And on the other hand, buyers was pretty much spread between financial support, market validation, as well as big company name association. On the flip side, when we asked what the primary motivation was for large corporations to partner with small tech developers, we found that both sides pretty much agreed that tech developers add value to a corporation's portfolio. Buyers also felt as though tech developers do provide some sort of technical support. And as one consumer products company told us, technology developers are focused and more driven. They help keep the big corporation ball rolling and have innovative ways of approaching the problem. And another question that we asked them was how quickly or what were their expectations were in regards to when research is actually commercialized. And buyers and developers tend to have different ideas on when delivery technologies are ready for commercialization. Now, of course, this is highly dependent on what industry these buyers are in, what applications these tech developers are pursuing as their lead product, the stage of development of the technology, as well as at what point the partnership was formed. But for the most part, you can see that tech developers really believe that it takes about 5 to 10 years for any of their research to finally reach commercialization, whereas with buyers, they tend to think a good probably about 70% of the buyers felt that it takes less than 5 years for commercialization of research resulting from targeted delivery partnerships. So that's just a few of the questions that we asked them, and now what do you do to go about implementing these best practices? So as I mentioned, targeted delivery is relevant for all 4 of these industries, but in the interest of time, as well as who our audience is today, I'm just going to focus on these 2, the medical and consumer products industry. So the medical and the pharmaceutical industry has decades of experience. Just this year, Sanofi Aventis took over Genzyme, and then in 2009 there was the merging of Pfizer Wyeth and Roche and Genentech. So they have decades and decades of experience, and the fact that they, for whatever reason, they are really focused on the development of new active, blockbuster drugs, as opposed to the development or partnering with targeted delivery companies. So overall, though, because they do have this many years of experience, their partnerships with targeted delivery technology developers really lay the foundation for other industries. And the partnerships should work together to improve the efficacy, lower the costs, and achieve clinical milestones. So as you know, there's this patent cliff that these large pharmaceutical companies are really facing over the next few years, actually, and they stand to lose hundreds of billions of dollars in potential revenue because of drugs that are going off patent. So they should really start to focus a little bit more on trying to bring pharmaceutical actives through to commercial reality that have originally failed clinical trials for whatever reason. And structured licensing deals for the pharmaceutical industry are typically limited to one product with your standard upfront milestone payments and profit sharing. And of course, when you can deliver improved product performance, it leads to more differentiated products and more successful partnerships. And one example of a company that we cover in our space is that of Cyvita. They develop an injectable delivery system for the eye. It's basically a controlled release implant that they inject with a really small needle. It's about a 25 gauge needle. And when you remove the device, the hole is so small that the hole just seals on its own. And they've had, quite a few partnerships with pharmaceutical companies. They receive royalties from Bausch & Lomb on 2 products that are currently on the market. Pfizer actually has a 9% equity stake in the company, along with co-development agreement worth $165 million. They also have development partnerships with Alameda Sciences, and over the next fiscal year, all of their partners are obligated to make more than $30 million in payments to this company. Now, going on to the consumer products industry, what we're finding is that delivery partnerships in this industry are becoming more and more common. And additionally, what we're also finding is that these consumer product companies are really starting to make a lot of health claims. So, for example, Enviga, which is a product resulting from the JV between Nestle and Coca-Cola, they had held these health claims that drinking 3 of these bottles burns like 30 to 60 calories because of its high caffeine content. And even the European regulatory authorities are striking down these benefit claims made by these consumer products such as Ocean Spray's claims that it can help prevent urinary tract infection in women. So generally speaking, while these delivery partnerships are becoming more and more common, the consumer products companies really need to be wary about the health claims that they're making, and to really work with government officials to try and work these sort of health claims through the regulatory process. And what we've also found is that for consumer products, partnerships with targeted delivery technologies, it's really important that there is a really good application fit. One company told us, we fell in love with the technology, but it just, for whatever reason, it just didn't fit their specific application. So they can really make or break deals in the consumer health and personal care industries. And what's different from the pharmaceutical industry is that the deal structures in consumer products tend to be more back-end loaded versus front-end loaded. So consumer products companies tend to want to work with technology developers that have really developed their technology to a later stage versus pharmaceutical companies who are willing to put in the time and the money to develop products earlier in development, earlier in clinical trials. And one company that has been quite successful partnering with large consumer products, as well as pharma companies in this case, is that of MonoSol Rx. So they develop thin film formulations for prescription and over-the-counter drug delivery. It's a polymer-based material. So if you guys are all familiar with the Listerine pocket packs, that technology inspired this company to develop their thin film formulations. They currently have 7 over-the-counter products approved and on the market, including ones for children's laxatives, children's cold medicines, and breath fresheners. It really improves overall consumer compliance and usability, that sort of thing. They also have 2 FDA-approved products that came on the market in 2010, and both of those products are partnered with or out-licensed to other companies, Zuplens with Strativa Pharma, and another one with Reckitt Becknzer. But in total, they've got 10 to 15 partnerships in consumer products, pharmaceutical, and biotech industries. So now that we've discussed best practices between tech developers and these 2 different industries, how can these industries actually learn from each other? And again, there's always going to be partnerships between industries, as I mentioned, but for the purpose of today, the medical industry, for example, can really look to the consumer products industry for appeal and usability. So there's a lot of chronic diseases ongoing right now, whether it be diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, that sort of thing. So they can really look to consumer products industry to improve on their appeal of their pharmaceutical products. And the consumer products industry could really learn from the pharmaceutical and medical industry in regards to accepting the fact that they're going to become pharma and that it's going to be part of their future, but be wary of it happening too early and ensure that any sort of regulatory issues are cleaned up before they go down that route. So the last part of my talk, I'd like to just go a little bit into how the targeted delivery technologies that we cover in our intelligence service, how they stack up against each other, and provide some highlights of companies that are developing technologies for the personal care and cosmetics industry. So as I mentioned earlier, part of our intelligence service is to provide state-of-the-market reports, quarterly reports that provide more of a higher-level analysis of the industry itself. And we so every year, one of these reports is what we refer as the Lux Innovation Grid, and it's a framework that helps us and our clients evaluate the different technologies in the space. And all the companies are essentially scored and placed on this 2x2 grid. They're scored based on their technical value on the y-axis and their business execution on the x-axis. And the size of the bubble indicates the overall maturity of the company. So the larger the bubble, then the more mature the company is. And the color of the bubble represents our overall Lux take. So in our company profiles that we send out to our clients, we have an overall take of the company ranging from strong positive to strong caution. And that's represented by the colors that are the colors of the bubbles on the grid. So I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about how we actually score these companies, but if you have any further questions, just feel free to ask me afterwards. So scoring the technical value, so that's the y coordinate, basically it's determined by several criteria that are weighted differently according to this table. We look at how well the company's technology performs and how competitive it is in terms of pricing. And it's a measure of just basically the technology and its solution value. We also do measure the value of the company's IP. We look at the number of patents it has or trade secrets and consider how well the company will be able to defend its IP. And look at how much freedom to operate they have. We also look at how the company competes and how it stands with other companies developing similar technologies, and we look at the strength of that company compared to other companies. And we also look at their overall targeted delivery performance. So this is based on a set of key metrics. So this can include bioavailability, speed of onset, loading percentage into the technology. Now for the business execution score, this represents how well the company is able to perform and achieve success. And again, the different criteria that goes into determining this actual score is through its momentum, so how well the company has performed over the last year since we last briefed them. And then also we look at their partnerships. We look more at industrial partnerships versus academic partnerships because it again better represents how well the company is doing commercially. So we look at the strength and the number of the company's partnerships. And we also do a measure of its profitability by taking the revenue and dividing it by the number of employees. And, excuse me, and we also look at, we do a measure of how well the company or what obstacles the company has to overcome in order to become more successful, so the barriers to growth. And then also the regulatory factors. And of course, this is highly dependent on the specific application, excuse me, whether it's like pharmaceutical or consumer products. And of course, agricultural is going to be very different from all of these regulations. And finally, the size of the bubble or the maturity reflects how complete the company is. So we look at the number of employees the company has, the stage of development of the company's lead product. We look at its yearly revenue and also the number of years in which the company has been founded. So again, as I said, once these scores are tallied and they're placed on this 2x2 grid, the companies fall in one of 4 quadrants: dominant, high potential, long shot, or undistinguished. So companies that fall in the dominant quadrant, for example, they obviously have a high technical value and effective business execution. And these companies tend to be the first companies that reach commercialization. And so they're actually good investment targets. And so long as the application is a good fit, they are also good partners. On the other hand, companies that land in the long shot quadrant, again, lag in business execution and don't have very valuable technology. And so they tend to be, our recommendation to our clients is that they tend to be a little bit more of a they're definitely a higher risk in regards to partnerships, whatever it may be licensing, acquisitions, mergers, that sort of thing. And also they're high risk in regards to investment. But companies in this grid don't stay there forever. So this is why we update the grid on a yearly basis. And if a company changes its business strategy or it makes some sort of breakthrough in its technical research, then the company can certainly move into one of the other 3 quadrants. So looking at the targeted delivery companies that we've evaluated over the last year, you can see that generally speaking, the companies that are more mature and have an overall positive take really tend to fall into the dominant quadrant. Whereas on the other hand, companies that are considered to be more or less mature and what we consider to have, an overall caution take tend to fall in the long shot quadrant. Now, if I just take a slice of this overall picture and look at a few companies that are focusing on personal care and cosmeceutical industries, you can see that, again, these companies tend to fall into all 4 different quadrants. And I'm just going to focus on 4 companies today: Aegis Therapeutics, NanoSite, Salvonia, and Dermazone Solutions. The first company, Aegis Therapeutics, as you saw, fell into the dominant quadrant. And they're pretty much more or less a formulations company. They develop absorption enhancers and peptide and protein stabilizing agents. And surprisingly, the fact that they're only 2 full-time employees, they're pretty much a virtual company. They have maybe at times up to 6 persons, but 4 of those people are part-time. They're a profitable company. And these technologies are used to help in the transmucosal absorption as well as transdermal absorption of drugs or active ingredients in general. And one of my colleagues actually just spoke with them yesterday to get an update. And last year when we spoke to them, they only had 19 licensees. Now they have 24, and including and 4 of those licensees are in the top 10 pharma partners. I believe 3 of those are in the top 5, and 1 of them is in the top 10. And they also have partnerships with generics companies as well as others. And as of 2011, 8 of their products have gone through human clinical trials. Of course, these clinical trials are conducted through their partners, Dr. Reddy's, Zelos Therapeutics, as well as some others. And they do have this 3rd technology. It's an absorption enhancing self-assembling aqueous hydrogel technology that they used for transdermal active delivery. And right now, I think this is probably their least developed technology. And they are looking for dermatology and cosmetics companies to license their technology. And they claim that these hydrogels really leave the skin feeling soft and you don't have any sense of residue when you rub it onto the skin. So another company is actually what I find to be quite interesting. If you'll remember Daria's talk yesterday, how she talked about we really need to use nature as a model of innovation. And this is the perfect example of that. It's a company based in Israel called NanoSite. And what they do is basically take the nematocysts from sea anemones. So these are these little collagen-based micro-injectors from these organisms that naturally they use them for feeding, for attachment, and even for defense. And these micro-injectors typically contain neurotoxins. But what this company does is they harvest and purify these nematocysts. They replace them with some sort of active ingredient and use it as some sort of, they incorporate these micro-injectors into creams, and you can put it on your skin, and the micro-injectors form channels into your skin, and you get delivery into the skin in that way. So in regards to the formulation and their actual raw material source, this technology is really novel. And we did have one of our clients actually approach this company, and as I mentioned it earlier, they fell in love with the technology, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out for them application-wise, but technology-wise, it's definitely very novel. And they are targeting cosmeceutical applications in dermatology, personal care, and pain relief. And last year, they closed an investment round in 2010, and that should really help to finance the company through the next few years. So, you know, we do encourage that our clients engage with this company. But two of the major obstacles associated with this company is the fact that they are harvesting these microinjectors from sea anemones. So scale-up is going to be an issue. You know, you can't just take all the sea anemones in the ocean and, you know, harvest and take their microinjectors. So it'll be interesting to see how they decide to scale up their technology, and also if they're able to demonstrate the cost metrics that are associated with specific applications. So, you know, we encourage our clients to engage, but certainly be aware of these two issues before they actually commit significant resources. The third company, Salvona Technologies, fell within somewhere in between the top left high potential quadrant and the dominant quadrant. And they develop a number, I think 6 total micro and nano encapsulation technologies for controlled delivery of active ingredients. And you know, you can trigger the release based on heat, pH, temperature, pressure, any sort of triggers that you want, they can formulate for you. And they actually, you know, have been self-funded throughout its 12-year history. And Procter & Gamble and Estee Lauder they actually supply materials and nanoparticles for these large companies as well as some others. But they're not quite a positive for us because they tend to shift their focus quite a bit. You know, a few years ago when we first talked to them, they were more focused on the pharmaceutical industry. And then they switched to agrochemicals and home care, and now they're shifting to cosmeceuticals and generic drugs. So, you know, it's worth engaging just to kind of, you know, a meet and greet, just to kind of see how their technology works and how effective it is. But it would be important to monitor the results of this change in focus that they tend to have. And finally, Dermazone Solutions, which fell in the undistinguished quadrant, which is the bottom right. They are developing 2 types of liposomes for topical drug delivery. They are a US-based company. They've been around for a while. I would probably say I want to say late 90s or late 80s. But they have, you know, quite a few partnerships, and they actually recently had an FDA-approved topical treatment for wound healing with their partner, High Tech Pharma. They also have a couple of oral-based products on the market, multivitamins and vitamin D supplements, with their other partner, Source Vitamin Company. And they also have several subsidiaries. So they have a subsidiary, Caravita, that markets skincare cosmeceuticals directly to consumers. And they've also recently launched a nutraceutical brand, Hyssop Health, for herbal supplements. So, you know, they have they have a strong management team and an aggressive product development that helps them execute their business quite well. But their technology, the development of liposomes, you know, although they say it is all natural products, it's unclear how well or how much their liposome technology is actually distinguished from others that are out there. So it's important that if clients were to engage, that they definitely independently verify the validity of the claims that they have. So, in summary, innovations in targeted delivery are consistently emerging and evolving. We're always finding out about new companies, whether it be through our clients or just through our own secondary research. We're always reaching out to them, finding more out about them, about their technology, their business model, and actually following their progress over the period of years. And partnerships are critical to tomorrow's products in both consumer personal care and cosmetics industries, and having best practices, best partnership practices can really help to achieve a win-win relationship. And in regards to the two specific industries, medical and consumer products, you know, although they do have an overlap and some commonalities between them, they do have their own quirks. So the medical industry does have decades of experience, but they tend to be blinded by hubris, and consumer products are really looking for breakthroughs, but they just tend to have to be careful of stretching the truth a little bit too far. So thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.